All right, so y'all should be seeing my screen now with the problem number 1 on it. So this problem wants me to graph the function f of x equals x to the third plus 4. Okay, so I'll do this by calculator and by hand. So let me write down this problem. X to the third plus 4. So let's do it on the calculator real quick. All right, y'all. So on the calculator, we would hit our y equals, and then we would put in our x, and then go for the exponent of 3. Arrow down, and then put a plus 4. And then y'all, we hit enter. I'm gonna go up here and hit graph now. Let me let one in. All right, so now we see when our graph is going uphill, it looks like left to right. So if we needed 3 points on that, we would hit second graph. Oops, let me hit my second again. Second graph. And we could get 3 points here. So I could plot 0, 4. If I was doing it by hand, 1, 5, and then 2, 12. But y'all, they already got a picture. So look at the graph. And then we'll go look at our picture. And looks like ours is going to be B. Remember, it sort of went uphill left to right, and it crossed over there at about, looks like 4 on the y-axis. So click B. We'll go to our next question. All right, so this one wants us to find a function value. So this wants me to find f of 4, and f of x equals 2x squared minus 4x minus 2. So on this one, all we got to do is put in a 4 for the x's on it. So y'all, that again, I'm going to knock that out on that calculator. So let me quit this screen and go back to the main screen. So 2x squared. So I would do my 2. In place of the x, I would put my 4. Then I would square that. Then it was minus 4x. So that'd be minus 4. And in parentheses, in place of that x again, I'm putting a 4. And then we had minus 2. So y'all hitting enter on that. Calculator's going to follow order of operations, and we get a 14. So we would go back to the test here. And look at that. Choice A is 14. So we would click A, and we would move on to the next. So y'all answer this one. I'm going to pull up my chat so y'all can answer this. Is this a graph of a function? So would y'all put a yes or no on that? Graph of a function. And y'all, I'll tell you, so yes, it definitely is. Good job. Good job. And if you see all them vertical lines on that graph, you know, all them vertical lines, they only cross that graph once on that squiggly line. They all only pass it one time each. So that's another way using that vertical line test. But good job, y'all. So that would definitely be a yes on that one. So the vertical line cannot cross it more than once. All right, y'all want to do this one. Let me write this one down. X minus y plus 4z equals negative 6. 3x plus a z equals negative 2. X plus 4y plus z equals negative 10. All right, so I'm going to use the matrix on the calculator to solve this. Okay, so that's the best way to do these. So let's go to our screen and maybe pull my calculator up. I'm going to clear this old key history. All right, y'all. So to use the matrix on the calculator, you would hit second and then the X-1 key. Above it in blue, it says matrix, and that's what we're wanting to get to. So I'm going to go right and highlight edit. Once I highlight edit, I'm going to hit enter. So most of these from what we did earlier are going to be the same size, 3 by 4. The 3 is because I got 3 rows. So you put how many rows you got in there, which is 3. So I would hit enter. And then it blinks on the 4. That is how many columns we got in our problem. So we got 4 columns. We got the X column, the Y column, the Z column, and then the answer column. So once again, we hit enter. Now we start putting in the numbers. So my first equation was X minus Y plus 4Z equals -6. So for the X, I would put a 1 and hit enter. For the -Y, I would put a -1, enter. For the Z, I would put a 4, enter. And then the last column is for the answers. I had a -6, enter. All right, let's go into the next row. This row, I had 3 X's plus Z equal -2. So there was no Y's in the second equation. So where the Y's go, I put a 0 for that. So I had 3 X's. So I'm going to hit 3, enter. 0 Y's on that one. So if it's missing, you put a 0. I had 1 Z, so that'd be 1, enter. And then that answer was -2. And enter. So now it goes to the third row. I had X plus 4Y plus Z equal -10. So I got 1 for the X, enter. 4 for the Y, enter. 1 for the Z, enter. And then that answer was -10. And enter. So I've entered all my numbers. So now what I do is I quit that screen by hitting second mode. That's how you quit. Now, that matrix is now in that calculator. So what I want to do now is make it do the operation that gives me the answers. So to do that, we hit second X-1 to get to the matrix stuff again. And y'all, this time you arrow right 1 time and highlight math. Now, math is highlighted. We're going to arrow down until we find RREF. Option B on here, RREF. When you highlight that, hit enter. So that brings it on the screen. Now you do that again. We hit second X-1 again. And see, we put our matrix in for A because that's the first one we was in when we edited. So we hit enter on that, and because that brings that matrix onto the screen now. So now that we want to reduce this matrix, we hit enter. Now, the far right column, the top 0 is the X's is 0. Next under that is a -2. That means that 1Y equals -2. And then the bottom one is for the Z, and that means 1Z equals -2. So our answer will be 0, -2, -2. So y'all, we need to go find that on that test. So remember, it's got to go in the right order. So C would be our answer because the last column had a 0, -2, -2. All right, y'all. So then after that, we would hit next. All right, y'all, let me bring my chat up because I want y'all to answer this one. What is the domain of this function? Would y'all go with A, B, C, or D? And I guess if I was going to give y'all a clue on this one, I would recall that the domain means what all X values. So let me see, I see some A's popping up. So A says -4 to 4. Good job, because on that little graph, the far left point was the -4. And then every X value all the way up to +4 had Y values. So good job. So we would definitely pick an A on that one, y'all, and move on. All right, so this one looks like we're going to have to work this one out and then graph it. So 8x minus 9y is greater than or equal to -3. So I'm going to share my actual pad so we can work this. Because even on the calculator, you got to solve it for the y. So we got that right here. 8x minus 9y is greater than or equal to -3. And I'll show you how to shade it on your calculator also. So first thing, since we're solving this for the y, we need to subtract the 8x from both sides. So that's going to give me my -9y greater than or equal to. And these are not like terms. So I usually just put my x's first out of habit. But you could put -3 minus 8x. That would have worked too, okay? All right, so the -9y now needs to be a +1y. So we're going to divide all three of these by -9. So that cancels, giving me my +y. So do y'all remember what I got to do now? So I got to we got to flip the inequality. So it was a greater than or equals. It's now going to be a less than or equals. So y'all remember that when you divide by these negatives, you got to flip it. All right, so -8 over -9 makes that a +8 over 9x. And then -3 divided by -9 makes that a +1/3. So here's what I would do, because they're going to have 4 pictures shown for us, right? So let's go graph this in our y equals. So I'm going to clear my history over here. All right, so I'm going to go to y equals. I'm going to clear out that cube we did a while ago. All right, so we had 8 over 9x. So let's see, 8 divided by 9x plus 1/3. So plus 1 divided by 3. Now, I'm on the newer calculator, but remember, if you want it to shade, you got to arrow all the way left to the left side of the y1. And you see that blinking on that blue? That's going to let me shade. When I hit enter, I'm going to keep it blue. So I'm going to arrow down to where it says line. Now remember, ours is less than, so we want to find a triangle that looks like it's the less than. That's the greater than. Hit enter. That one's for less than. So arrow down and hit OK. So now ours is going to shade the answer when I hit graph, and we'll pick one of them 4 answers. All right, you also look at it, it shaded it below to the bottom right corner. So we would hit, let's go see that test. So bottom right corner, that would have been what, C? And you see how that's a solid line? Remember, it's got to be a solid line because we had equals under ours. Let's say an equals had a solid line. Okay. All right, y'all. So not bad. You just hit next. Trick on that. Really, what gets people is y'all forget to flip that little inequality around. Okay. All right. So let me write this one down. This is one of our longer problems. So ladder resting against the wall. The ladder touches the wall at a height of 6 feet. So let me see. I got to move this out of my way here. All right, so now I can see it. Find the length of the ladder if the length is 2 feet more than a distance from the wall. The length of the ladder, 2 feet more than its distance from the wall. All right, y'all. So let's show our screen because this one I will have to work out by hand. So let me go to my pad. All right, so let me draw what we got. We got a wall over here. And on that wall, I got a ladder leaning up against it. So it tells me the top of this ladder is resting 6 feet on the wall or up it. So I know that this one side from the top of the ladder to the ground is 6 feet. Then it says, hey, the length of this ladder is 2 feet more than the distance from the wall. Well, this is the distance from the wall. I don't know it, so that's going to be my X. Now, the length of the ladder is 2 feet more than that distance, so that would be my X plus 2. So notice, they want you to realize that this makes a right angle, and you got a triangle. So in order for me to find these distances using the triangle, I'm going to use that Pythagorean theorem, which said a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now, this side here, the longest side has to be C. And then this can be A and B. Now, that don't matter which one's A or B, but this one has to be C, remember, because that's your hypotenuse, okay? All right, so for A, I would put my X and square that. My B is 6, square that. That's going to equal C squared, which is X plus 2 squared. So since this side's squared, you got to square that whole thing, which means we're going to have to FOIL this in a second. So first, I'll bring down the X squared. 6 squared is 36. All right, y'all. So let me just FOIL this on the side real quick, because X plus 2 squared, you got to write that twice, and you got to FOIL that to bring it down. So to FOIL, X times X is X squared. X times 2 is 2X. 2 times X is 2X. And then last is the 2 times 2, which is 4. So before I put it over here, I'm going to add like terms in the middle. So I get an X squared plus 4X plus my 4. So that's going to go right here. Now, what's nice about this problem, you got an X squared here and an X squared here. When you subtract this X squared to move it to the other side, it cancels, it cancels. Those X squareds cancel out. All that's left is a 36 equals 4X plus 4. So y'all, now we're just solving for the X. Subtract 4 from both sides. 32 equals 4x, and then divide by 4. So let's see, 32 divided by 4, that's going to give me what? 8 equal to my x. So this side, the distance from the wall to that ladder was 8. The length of this ladder is going to be the 8 plus 2, which gives me 10. So x is 8, the ladder is 10. So let's go see what they wanted on that. So we would go to our test. So it only wanted to know the ladder. So now if you solved it for x and you got an 8 and you put that as your answer, it will mark you wrong because that's the distance the ladder is from the wall. You had to add that 2 to get that 10 for that ladder. So y'all, we would check A on that one and move on. So y'all remember, y'all's is probably going to really work out the same as mine is on those problems, okay? They don't switch a lot on them. All right, so this wants us to find the domain. F of x equals x squared plus 17x plus 72 all over x squared minus 4. So yours is going to be similar, x squared minus 1, x squared minus 9, something like that. So y'all, let's go to the pad and work that. So since I'm finding the domain, all I got to worry about is the bottom. So I set that bottom equal to 0. Now, you could factor this and solve it, but since there's no x term on this, the easiest thing to solve this would be to add 4 to both sides so that you get x squared equals 4, and then take the square root of each side. So the square root of x squared is x. Square root of 4 is going to be a positive or negative 2. So that means we get x equals a positive 2, x equals a negative 2. So the domain, they wanted me to write in interval notation. So since these are my 2 numbers I got to worry about, our domain for a fraction always starts at negative infinity until it gets to the first number on the number line. Well, starting at negative infinity, it's going to hit that negative 2 first. We're going to union around that negative 2. We're going along the number line until we hit positive 2. So now we got a union around that positive 2 to kick it out of our domain. And then notice there's no more numbers to worry about. So it goes from positive 2 all the way to positive infinity. So y'all, if you got an x squared sitting under the bottom of a fraction, there's 2 numbers that you're going to have to union around, okay? All right, so let's see if we got that one on those answers. So let's see. Yeah, the only one that's got 2 numbers is D. And it's got my negative 2 and 2. So we would click D, y'all, and move on. All right, so I'm going to have to write this one down. Oh, this is another. Ooh, this is another of the longer problems. So this is a f of x equals 6x squared plus 3x. And they want me to construct and simplify the difference quotient. All righty, so I'm going to definitely do this on pad by hand. So the difference quotient is f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. So the trick to this problem, we know what f of x is. They gave it to me right here. The trick is finding f of x plus h. So let's find that. F of x plus h you're going to put an x plus h in for this x and an x plus h in for that x. So that'll give us 6 times x plus h squared plus 3 times x plus h. All right, so my first step is to play with this exponent. Remember, you got to do the exponent before you multiply. Do y'all remember? We figured what x plus h was going to equal because we used that for all the problems when we had this being squared. So it's always going to be the same as we had in our notes a while back. X times x is x squared. X times h is a hx. I'm just putting them in alphabetical order. X times h is a hx. And then the h times h was a h squared. So we would probably add these like terms. So this gives us the x squared plus 2hx plus the h squared. So we can now replace x plus h squared with this. So we got 6 times this x squared plus 2hx plus h squared plus our 3 times the x plus h. So yeah, the only thing I did on that step was that exponent. Now we're going to distribute the 6 through those parentheses, the 3 through those parentheses. So we get a 6x squared plus 6 times 2 is a 12hx. 6 times h squared is a 6h squared plus 3 times x is 3x plus 3 times h is 3h. And guess what? None of those are like terms. So this is now f of x plus h, which will go right there in my formula. All right, y'all ready? So we're going to put in f of x plus h minus f of x. All of that will be over h. All right, here I go. 6x squared plus 12hx plus 6h squared plus 3x plus 3h. Woo, f of x plus h was long. F of x was the 6x squared plus the 3x. All right, so since these two are being subtracted, we can cancel them out with their counterpart over here. So the 6x squared cancels out with a negative 6x squared. And then I got a positive 3x cancels with this negative 3x. So y'all, what's left? 12hx plus 6h squared plus 3h all over h. At this point, the only thing that's going to be left will be the stuff that has the h's in it. Because see, f of x don't have h's in it, so you can't cancel no h's out since there's none over here. So now you got all these things with h's over to h. This is where we finally had to cancel one h out from all three of these. So if you cancel this h out, you get a 12x plus 6. You have two h's. One of them cancels with that h. That's going to leave me one h. And then on the 3h, those h's cancel, leaving us with a 3. So y'all, tricky problem. You got to focus on this f of x plus h stuff though, okay? All right, y'all, so let's go see if this one's in that answer choice. Because it was an A, B, C, D. So what do we get? 12x plus 6h plus 3. Looks like we would go with B on that. And then hit next. All right, y'all, this one's a graph one. So what do we got? -5 square root of x. So let's go graph that on our calculator. So we would hit right, I'm gonna clear this out. And I'm gonna clear out my y equals. Let me get back to y equals and clear that out. Now, since I'm not shading, I'm going to arrow left and hit enter on that so I can change my line back. But I don't want it to shade. So I'm gonna go down here on the line and go back to the line. Then I'm gonna hit OK. All right, so it's back on the line now. So we had -5. So let me get back over here to the right. So -5, square root of x. So get the square root, you hit the second button. And then the x squared button. You see a little blue radical above it. And then you put in your x. So y'all, we got a picture of 4 graphs. So let's see which one it looks like. So I hit graph. All right, so let me see. Oh, I got too many negatives. Let me delete that first negative. All right, so it should be -5 square root of x. All right, y'all, let me graph that. So our graph goes downhill to the bottom right. So we would go see if we got a picture going downhill to the bottom right. So let's see. It's going to have to be D because that's the only one that's going downhill and to the right. Now, y'all, I'll tell you what, since this is a square root, it cannot be A or B at all, no matter what, because the x's can't be negative on that. Let me show you what the calculator does for negative x's. So if you look at your table here, hit second graph. If I go up to where these negative x's are, look, it gives you error messages. That's because they're imaginary numbers. So it won't graph those when they're imaginary answers. So anything on the radical that's got a negative x is going to be an error, okay? All right, y'all, so we went with D, so we're going to hit next. So y'all, intervals of increasing, decreasing, and constant. I'm gonna make that a little bigger for you. So increasing is going uphill left to right. Decreasing will be going downhill left to right. Constant will be a straight horizontal line. So they're starting with increasing on their answers. So this one is increasing where it's going uphill. So we just need to go down and see what that x value is where that starts. And y'all, it looks like if I go straight down where it starts going uphill, looks like a 4 on the x-axis. And it's going uphill to the right, which means it's going uphill from 4 towards infinity. So at that point, the only one that's got the right answer would be A, because that's the only one going 4 to infinity. So let's see if it's decreasing from negative infinity to -4. So remember, decreasing is going downhill. So it starts over here at negative infinity. It's going downhill. Now it stops going downhill. If I go down to that x value is -4 like it had on A, which means from -4 to +4, it's a straight line, which means it's constant. So y'all, the only one that even had the increasing part right was A. So if you get on this, figure out where y'all's is increasing. And remember, it's probably going to be a picture like mine, increasing towards infinity. So you just got to find that x value, okay? And all these got 4s and -4s in the answer. So that should clue you in on only using x's, all right? All right, y'all, so once you do that, you're hitting next. So y'all, let me pull some chat up for y'all again. So y'all, A, B, C, or D, if you got the graph of f of x equals negative, x minus 5 squared plus 12, and you're trying to obtain that from the graph of y equals x squared. Well, what are them numbers doing to your graph? So y'all, let's start with it. Looks like they're messing with the horizontal stuff first on the answers. So to move it horizontal is going to be that x minus 5 part of that in parentheses. Now, remember, when you're moving horizontal, minuses move me to the right, pluses move me to the left. So that one went -5, which means it's going to go 5 units to the right. So y'all, we got A, C, and D at that point. They all move to the right. Then it says reflect across the axis. Well, when we was doing this stuff, there was only one axis we reflected across, and that was the x-axis, right? The only way to flip across the y-axis was to make the exponents negative, and we didn't do that till chapter 9 stuff. So the only axis on this question that you can possibly flip it over is the x-axis. So let's see, we went 5 units right. We're reflecting across the x-axis. So the only one that's got that part would be C, right? And then at the end, pluses move me up, minuses move me down. So let's see, Claire, you already got an answer on there of C. So let me look. C went right like we needed across the X and then up. Good job. So y'all, that would pick our C and hit next. All right, y'all, so let me write this one down. F of X equals X squared minus 4X plus 13. And they want me to find zeros and give exact answers. What they mean by exact answers is leave the radical stuff if you have radicals, okay? So notice from their answers, we're either going to get a nice answer or some kind of imaginary answers. So let's go work this out. Now I'm going to work this one using our buddy, the quad formula, which said x equals -b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. So here's my 3 numbers. A is 1, since I don't have a number in front of the x squared. B is -4. C would be 13. So the 3 numbers I'm about to plug into this formula. So x equals -b, which is -4. So that negative is going to change that -4 that was here to a +4 eventually. B squared is -4 squared minus 4 times A, which is 1, and C, which is 13, all over 2 times 1. So -4 is going to make that a +4. Plus or minus B squared. So -4 times -4 is 16. And y'all, this number has to be positive. No matter what number you put there, it better be positive when you square it. Now over here, I got a -4 times 1, which is -4. -4 times 13 is a -52. All over 2 times 1 is 2. All right, so now I'm just going to see what that subtracts and gives me. So I get 4 plus or minus square root 16 minus 52 is, y'all, a -36 all over 2. All right, so next we're going to take the square root of that and see what we get. So 4 plus or minus. So y'all, I got your chat open. So how about this? What is the square root of a negative 36? Oh, good job. It is definitely 6i. So we put a 6i there. So anything that's negative is going to have an I answer. And then all over 2. And y'all guess what? Just like we'll go with the H's, we take both of these, divide by that 2 to get our final answer. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, plus or minus 6i divided by 2 gives us 3i. So we need to go find 2 plus 3i for our answer. And y'all, they got it for part A. So yeah, if you didn't do that negative right on that start of this, that's where they get you with that negative on that answer, okay? All right, so let me see what's next. Oh, y'all, I might do this one real quick. F of x equals 2x squared plus 8x plus 3. They want us to find the vertex. So once again, I'm going to do that by hand. And notice the vertex has to look like an ordered pair when we're done, okay? All right, so your formula for the vertex was negative b over 2a, and then f of negative b over 2a. So you figure out what negative b over 2a equals. Once you figure out what that equals, you put it into that function and get the y value. So see, it'll look like an ordered pair when we're done. So to get that x coordinate, we do negative b over 2a. Well, that's going to be a negative b, which is 8, over 2 times a, which is the 2. So the numbers are the same thing. A is 2, b is 8, c would be 3, okay? So I get a negative 8 over 4, which equals a negative 2. So now if I want that y value, I put a negative 2 in for both of these x's. So I got 2 times negative 2 squared plus 8 times negative 2 plus 3. All right, remember, you got to do the exponent first. So negative 2 squared would be a positive 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times negative 2 is negative 16. And then plus my 3. But y'all, at this point, I could have just plugged that part right in my calculator if I wanted to. All right, so let's see. 8 minus 16 gives a negative 8 plus 3. Negative 8 plus 3 is a negative 5. So we had a negative 2 for the x, negative 5 for the y. So we would go punch that on that math test. All right, so when we get negative 2, negative 5, so we would have to go with D on that one. All right, then hit next. All right, so y'all let me see what this is, number 15. So let's do 15 and then I'll do the other 10 Monday when we come back, okay? Because I want y'all to really focus on y'all's test 4 for this week. So remember, the exponents are the multiplicity, and the factors are the only factors we're worried about have to have an x with them. That 4 sitting out front does not have an x with it, so throw it away. The only factors we're worried about are the x plus 8 and the x minus 8. So remember, the zeros have opposite signs than the factors. So for this one, the x plus 8 would give me a 0 of negative 8, and it happens 2 times. The second one, x minus 8, would give me a positive 8 for the 0, and it happens 3 times. So let's find one that says negative 8 twice. So look at B, negative 8, multiplicity 2. And then +8 from the second one happens 3 times. So y'all, we would definitely pick B on that one. So let's see, D was backwards. D was if you didn't change the signs, you would think you'd have a -8 and a +8 happening that many times. But remember, the zeros are always opposite in sign than the factors. All right, y'all, then we would hit next. So let me see what's coming up next for Monday. So yeah, we'll play with the graphing and the rest of this on Monday, okay? I'm going to stop that share. So I just wanted to get us through about 15 of those. And y'all really, this week, you want to focus on test 4, because remember, those tests are 50% of y'all's final grade. And y'all need to go through your work and see if you have any tests that you did not do. If there's any test you did not do, you got to email me so that I can open it, okay? Remember, the final exam will only replace 1 low grade. So we can get away with having maybe 1 bad test or a 0, but y'all, if you got 2 zeros sitting there, one of them will stay if you don't get it fixed before that final, okay? All right, y'all, let me see. Any questions y'all have? And y'all realize we only got 1 more class left together, right? Next Monday. Final exams are going to open up next Wednesday, the 7th of December. And they will be due by midnight, December 11th, which will be that next Sunday, okay? So everything has to be done in your math lab by December 11th. All righty, y'all. So if I don't see no questions, what I'm going to do is I'll email out this half of it. But y'all really focus on test 4 for me, because we got next week to play with this final, okay? All right, y'all, I'm going to stop this recording then. So yeah, on the final.